Hi students, welcome to Vijeta IAS Academy Current Affairs class. Let's track the today's news items in the Hindu newspaper. The purpose of tracking news items is to give you strong foundation for the news items. It will help you in understanding editorials and comments made by various people in different newspapers. The purpose of this video, we exclusively focusing on the news. Editorial analysis and articles analysis we deal separately. Let's start. Here in the front page, international news is covered. Hence this video is segregating international news first, then polity news we cover, then economy news is covered. Let's start with today's newspaper analysis. First one is Indian students hostage in Kharkiv, says Putin. Here you are continuously following the war between Ukraine and Russia. It is the war unilaterally declared by Russia on Ukraine. Now here India is at receiving end. Indian students are studying in Ukraine. Many Indians are now stuck in this war zone. Now the main challenge for Indian government and India is to safeguard the interests and life of Indians and safely bringing back home. In this context, now we are appealing both Russia also and Ukraine also to bring back our Indians safely. Here Mr. Putin and West both are in loggerheads. They are continuously exchanging their heated comments and war is going on between two parties. Here Mr. Putin also commented on Indians as well. A large number of Indian students continue to remain hostage in a train station in Kharkiv, Russian President Vladimir Putin said. If we take the map here, this is Ukraine. Ukraine is under attack from all the sides. Here important towns, Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine, Kharkiv is one important city, and Kherson, these are important cities in Ukraine. Now these cities are under attack. Civilians are under attack now. Now this has created humanitarian crisis, the biggest ever humanitarian crisis in Europe since Second World War. Indians are also now are locked in this war zone. Now somehow our Indians need to be safely bring back. In this context, he is saying that large number of Indian students continue to remain hostage in a train station. For more than one day at a train station in Kharkiv, 3000 plus Indian citizens were held prisoner. They are still there. Most of them are still there, including 500 plus people in Sumy. Sumy is a place here. So you can see the places here. Here it is in United Nations Security Council and United Nations General Assembly, we abstained from voting. It is indirectly supporting Russia, and we are appealing for Russia to safely bring Indians home. Now Russian president himself is saying that now he is attacking the opposite party by saying that indirectly he is saying we want to help Indians, but outside other party Ukraine people are taking Indians as a hostage. That is how he is trying to project Ukrainians as enemies. Neo-Nazis opened fire at Chinese citizens who wanted to leave Kharkiv. Two of them were wounded, Mr. Putin said during a speech at Security Council of Russia. Here China also abstained from voting in United Nations General Assembly and United Nations Security Council. He said hundreds of foreign citizens were being prevented by Ukrainian forces from leaving Kharkiv, added basically they are taking prisoners. It is like he is trying to project himself as he don't want to attack civilians. He want to help foreign nationals like Indians and Chinese people. But still, he is not able to help because Ukrainians are taking them as prisoners or hostages. The Kharkiv city, who had a large number of Indian, Chinese, African students, has been the focus of international concern as fighting raged amid report that Russia was in advantageous position. In recent years, Now the refugees, United Nations also saying that more than 10 lakh people now are under distress. Now they are becoming refugees in Ukraine. Now what is the response from Ukraine? An official from Kyiv informed that Ukraine and Russia have agreed to create a humanitarian corridor to let foreign nationals exit. The second round of talks is over. Unfortunately, Ukraine does not have the results it needs yet. There are decisions only on the organization of humanitarian corridors. Foreign students can be evacuated if this agreement is implemented on the ground. Both Russia and Ukraine coming to terms that they are having a lot of differences, but first, at least foreign nationals can be safely evacuated from Ukraine. If they agree and if they follow their principle on the ground, foreign nationals can be evacuated safely. So Indian nationals also can be brought to India safely. This is about this particular news item. Now we will continue tomorrow also what will be the development. Next news is about Quad meets amid tensions over Ukraine. Now this issue, Russia and Ukraine war, will have consequences on various angles. In today's news itself, we will see how India is facing stress from different quarters. Because now India is not directly attacking or directly condemning Russia publicly, even though it is indirectly saying that war is not an option, diplomacy is the only solution. Both parties should come together and solve their differences. Even though it is saying indirectly that here India is not with aggressive war with Russia, but directly it is abstaining voting from United Nations Security Council and United Nations General Assembly. Naturally, it is not going well with Western countries. Western countries, particularly US and Western European countries, are pushing India to go against Russia. But we Indians have different calculations with respect to Russia because we need Russia in our national foreign policy, because Russia is always a all-weather friendly since our independence. We are not able to antagonize Russia on this issue, but at the same time we cannot distance Western countries as well. We need West also, we need Russia as well. Now on one hand we are not directly attacking Russia, that means we are indirectly supporting Russia, and at the same time we are also part of Quad meeting. Quad is Quad is a meeting among 4 countries. Here USA and Japan, Australia and India. If you take these 3, only India abstained from voting or indirectly supporting Russia, but all the 3 are opposite to Russia. Now how India can handle this particular situation now? In that context, this news we have taken, and let us see what is the content of this news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and leaders of Japan and Australia took part in a suddenly convened Quad summit hosted by US President to announce a new mechanism for humanitarian assistance in the Indo-Pacific and the impact of Ukraine crisis on the region. This summit or this group, Quad, is an informal group among 4 countries. They are mainly focusing on Indo-Pacific region, where in Indo-Pacific region these countries always wanted to maintain open, free maritime communication, and these channels can be utilized by all countries without any aggression from strong or bullying countries. The meeting came amid deep divisions within the Quad grouping itself, as India has chosen to abstain from every vote at UN and other organizations that criticized the Russian attack on Ukraine, while US, Japan, Australia have been calling for a tough line on Moscow. So it is like 3:1. 3 countries are on one side opposite to Russia. Now India is not joining with them openly and condemning Russia. It will create pressure in Quad grouping because India needs Quad support in containing in protecting our neighbors or protecting our borders from our bullying neighbors. In that context, we should maintain good relations with these three countries. However, now in situations like this, it becomes difficult for diplomats also to convince these three countries the India's position. A US State Department cable that appeared in an online news report on Thursday that was subsequently retracted as an error said India's abstentions place it in Russia's camp. Now you can see this kind of emotion or these kind of developments will go against India's interests. Even though this is a kind of, even though they have removed the report by saying it as an error, but still this shows the kind of sentiment that is there in USA. Some people may project India as anti-US or they are with Russia's camp. But India don't want to be seen as part of Russia's camp in this particular war because India also know that Russia's unilateral declaration of war on Ukraine is not justifiable. In a United Nations Security Council and UN also, India's representative is highlighting this. Territorial integrity and sovereignty of an independent nation must be respected by all parties. So it is indirectly saying that Russia should respect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. But at the same time, we cannot antagonize Russia as well by voting in against Russia. The Quad leaders discuss the ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. They are discussing about this Ukraine, and in this particular region, Indo-Pacific region, if there is any outcome or if there is any consequence, four countries are discussing how to handle this particular situation. So this is about Quad related news. Next news is about army operations going as planned. Mr. Putin is saying it is like a counter statement to the Western countries' statement. Mr. Putin's televised comments seemed designed to rebut statements by Western governments that Russia's campaign has stumbled in the face of logistical problems, tactical mistakes, and resistance from Ukraine. Now, Western media and Western diplomats and Western leaders are giving statements that now Russia is about to fail in this war. It is making a lot of tactical mistakes and a lot of resistance is coming from Ukraine. They are facing logistical problems also. Now Russia is going to lose this war and now Mr. Putin is going to lose this war. So naturally Mr. Putin don't want to be seen as a weak leader. He is attacking the Western leaders by saying these statements. The humanitarian crisis deepened with UN saying 1 million people had now fled their homes. United Nations also saying already 10 lakh people are now fleeing their homes. The talks between Russia and Ukraine marked the first time the two sides had agreed any form of progress on any issue since Russian invasion. On one side, talks are going on between Russia and Ukraine. On the other hand, war is also going on. Meanwhile, the consequences of war is refugee crisis. According to UN, saying at least 10 lakh people now flee their countries. Now it is flee Ukraine. Now it will have impact on the neighboring countries. These refugees are going into neighboring countries. And the nationals like Indians, Chinese, Africans and many other foreign nationals are also struck in this war zone. These are the consequences. On the one hand, the diplomacy efforts are also going on between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine presidential advisor said two sides envisaged a possible temporary ceasefire to allow for evacuation of civilians and the creating of humanitarian corridor to evacuate civilians. At least if Russia and Ukraine agrees to this particular principle, at least foreign civilians and normal civilians, they can be safely they can be evacuated safely from the war zone. That is not everywhere, but only in those places where the humanitarian corridors themselves will be located. It will be possible to cease fire for the duration of the evacuation. Both Russia and Ukraine now both are in favor of creating humanitarian corridors where people can be safely moved to the safe locations. They can be taken away from the war zone. So this is about army operations. Mr. Putin is saying that army operations are going on as planned. War is going on, and he is also appreciating Russia's army also for doing their operations. But the Western media and Western leaders are targeting Mr. Putin by saying that they are doing tactical mistakes and there is greater resistance from Ukraine than Mr. Putin expected. Now, in the crossfire, other nationals, innocent civilians are struck. Now, there should be a mechanism to safely bring out these people and safeguard the lives of innocents. This is about this news. And another news. Now, once war starts, in one of the articles, we have discussed that once war starts, the events will not be in the hands of Mr. Putin. He may be the one who declared war on Ukraine, but the consequences will not be under his hand. Now, so many multiple effects are going to happen across the globe. Now, this is one more example how this is going to affect the development of the world. Beijing-based AIIB puts Russia-Belarus projects on hold. Now you can see the Beijing-based Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank AIIB. It is important. Even in UPSC prelims also it was asked. New development banks like New Development Bank, that is related to BRICS. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the headquarters is located in Beijing, China, said it was putting on hold and reviewing all projects in Russia and Belarus. Already financial sanctions are imposed on Russia. Now Russia cannot do business openly with other countries. Other countries also cannot have financial transactions or any relations with Russia freely. Now Russia and its ally Belarus, now AIIB infrastructure related projects also cannot be taken freely due to this war. Shareholders, now come to AIIB. What is the specialty of AIIB? Some facts. China is the largest shareholder with 26.5% voting share. India is the second largest with 7.5% voting share, followed by Russia which has 5.97% voting share. Belarus is also a member of this bank. Now due to this war, developmental activities also will be put on hold. And some more facts related to AIIB. It is headquartered in Beijing, China. Operation started since 2016. Now former Reserve Bank of India Governor Urjit Patel is also one of the vice presidents of the bank, is a vice president of the bank. These are some of the factual part related to AIIB. Now you can connect how war will have impact on various aspects. One is at political level. Now, for example, if you take India, now India diplomacy efforts are in trouble. Now India has to maintain the balance between two parties of the war. On one side Russia, we should maintain relations. On the other hand, the victim Ukraine also, and the countries which are supporting Ukraine, we should maintain that diplomacy. That is one area where strategically this war is going to have impact on countries. Not only Russia, not only India, but even every other country, they have to maintain this balance now. And for example Pakistan, for example China, they also now have to think about this strategic calculation. So strategically war is going to have impact. This example is how this war is going to impact developmental activities as well. Now AIIB is funding the projects in countries wherever infrastructure is required. Now the operations of AIIB will be put on hold. Developmental projects will get affected. Ultimately, civilians only get the burden of the stopping of these developmental activities. Next issue is once again related to India. US spared no effort to push India on UN vote. Now it shows the kind of pressure India is facing now from different quarters. Today only we have seen Quad example. In Quad also now we are facing the opposition. Now we have to maintain the balance. In United States also, United States is following democratic principles of governance. Their executive and legislatures are powerful. Executive and legislatures, they balance each other. Checks and balances are maintained in this democratic setup. So there the executive should answer the legislature. Even in India also, in today's news itself, we will see one more example with respect to India, where executive is accountable to legislature. Legislature do pose questions to the executive. Executives are supposed to answer these questions. In USA also, this is one example. We have taken this news because it is directly relevant for our India's foreign policy. A top US diplomat was speaking to members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It is a standing committee of US Senate. US Senate is like our parliament. So it is the legislature wing of the USA state machinery. Executive is questioned from the legislature. Now executive is supposed to answer these questions, which was holding a hearing on US-India relations. So this news is relevant for us because those questions and answers are related to US-India relations. India abstained from a vote on UN General Assembly resolution. In this context, legislature of USA is asking the executive what steps you are going to take against India, or what is your policy towards India on the account of these growing developments here. We have spared no effort. Executive is answering legislature. We have spared no effort to try to convince India both to vote in UN sessions but also to show support for Ukraine at this critical moment. He repeatedly legislature asked him if India would be sanctioned for its purchase of S-400 missile defense system from Russia under CATSA law. This is US countering America's adversaries through Sanctions Act. This was in news for some time. If India votes in favor of Russia, one kind of development would have taken place. They may consider India is with the Russian bloc and they would have immediately imposed sanctions on India as well. But India abstained. Now we are not denying, we are not with Russia and we are not with West also. In this situation, legislature is asking the executive if India would be sanctioned for abstaining this vote. And Mr. Lu, executive, is saying that still this matter is still being considered. He did not want to prejudge the decisions of President or Secretary of State on whether there would be sanctions or a waiver. Whether Indian condition, because India, US have good relations. And just now we have seen Quad also. In case of Quad is about Indo-Pacific region. In Indo-Pacific region, India is a major country. US need the support of India to contain China. So India needed by USA also, and USA cannot antagonize India also. At the same time, India need USA. It cannot antagonize USA also. Executive is saying that is still is under consideration. President or Secretary of State, they will decide whether it will be waived or imposed, sanctions would be imposed on India or not. These are the important news items from international point of view. Now we see news related to polity. Here, this is in front page itself. UP voter turnout this time matching figures of 2017 polls. This appears like a political news, but let us see in examination point of view or administration point of view. Here it is talking something about voter turnout. Here we have to focus on this voter turnout. Let us see the news. Phase 6 of polling in UP Assembly election and voter turnout 55 as of 11 pm as against 56 for corresponding phase in 2017. The level of voter participation has been of particular interest in this round of elections considering the COVID-19 related restrictions on campaigning. In Punjab, this is the voter turnout. In Uttarakhand, so these are the turnouts in different parts of the country in different assembly elections. Here voter turnout we have to see like administration, election commission wants to increase the voter turnout because elections is heart and soul of democracy. If more people participate in democracy, the democracy of a country is strengthened. Here voter turnout refers to percentage of eligible voters who cast their ballot. A high turnout is indicative of the vitality of democracy. This is the aspect in administrative aspect you have to see. In terms of examination also you have to see. If there is more voter turnout means more people are participating in the democratic process. That means more people are exercising their right to vote and indirectly they are participating in the political system of their country. While low turnout is associated with voter apathy and mistrust of the political process. If more people are not voting, if less voter turnout is happening means people are not showing interest in the democratic process. If more people do not show interest on democratic process, it will have consequences on political system itself. Political democracy or a democratic system should be strengthened in a democratic country like India. Then only more people can participate, they can give the voice and they can represent their voice in the legislature. If more people do not participate in the legislature in the democracy means they will look for other alternative for settling their disputes. Now it will create law and order problem. For example, if you take example of Naxalism or Maoist in some pockets of India, they do not but believe in the democracy. Now they have taken the arms and that condition is creating law and order situation in the country. It will divert our attention also, and state resources are used to kill our own people because some sections of people have taken the arms as the means to raise their voice. This is how the difference between democracy and those who do not believe in the democracy. That is, in that context, high voter turnout means more maturity in the democracy. That means more people are in favor of peaceful resolutions of conflicts within the society. India has seen voter turnouts increasing in both Lok Sabha and Assembly elections, largely due to the Election Commission's efforts to enhance voter participation in the country. Since independence, if we see, the voter turnout is gradually increasing. In 2019, the country recorded the highest voter turnout, 67%. In 1952, in first general elections, 44. In 2019, 58, 66, and in 2019, 67%. So more and more people are showing interest in democracy, and also there are some other issues with respect to voter turnout. For example, why there is less voter turnout? Reasons could be many, because there is migration. In India, people migrate from one place to another place in search of employment. When people migrate to other places, they cannot come and participate in the elections. This is one issue. And women participation was traditionally less in democracy. Now increasing these things, Now vote participation in women also increasing since independence. Here for reference I have given you this also. I will post this PPT as well. You can click and read this particular article as well. In this, Vice President calls for 75% voter turnout for making elections more inclusive. Here, Vice President is also calling for at least 75% of voter turnout to make elections more inclusive. This statement came recently only on 25th January 2022. So you can see and you can read this article fully. This can be used in your GS paper 2. Role of election commission in increasing the voter turnout, and questions like higher voter turnout means more inclusive participatory democracy. Comment. Such kind of questions can be answered with this content. Next news is about, as just while dealing with international relations, we have seen one example in case of USA where executive is accountable to legislature and legislature do pose the questions to executive. Similarly, this is example for India. Here in case of India, Indian executive is accountable to Indian legislature, parliamentary form of democracy we are following, where parliament questions the executive answers the question. Now Russia and Ukraine war is going on. Indian nationals are now at receiving end in Ukraine. Now in that context, our legislature is asking the questions to our executive. A 3-hour meeting of the Parliamentary Consultative Committee on External Affairs. Here we have to see Consultative Committee. There are two types of committees. One is parliamentary committees, another one is consultative committees. Here difference is, in case of parliamentary committee where they function directly under presiding officer, in case of Lok Sabha speaker, in case of Rajya Sabha chairman, and they present, these parliamentary committees present reports to the house or presiding officer. In case of consultative committees, they are attached to the ministries, they are attached to the executive itself. These ministers will act as chairman of these consultative committees. Informal discussions on various issues do take place in these consultative committees. This is an example of consultative committee related to external affairs. The meeting was attended by 9 MPs. Here 9 MPs means members of parliament, that is legislature. External affairs means this is executive. Now this is the relationship between executive and legislature. The committee was briefed on Russian offensive against Ukraine by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Largely non-confrontational, opposition MPs lauded the efforts of MEA officials under adverse circumstances. Here, legislature is appreciating the executive for taking steps because of these adverse circumstances, and the kind of steps executive has taken in these adverse circumstances, legislature is acknowledging and appreciating. However, it is also posing other questions. What kind of impact this war will be on India? Though he and other members, here specifically newspaper is saying about Mr. Rahul Gandhi, other member expressed that the government should have initiated the evacuation process earlier and the adversaries could have had more clarity. Mr. Gandhi said current priority should be to evacuate the Indian students from the war zone. There are no perfect solutions in such situations. Though he is asking question, it should have been done much earlier, but still he is saying no perfect solution in these situations. The opposition MPs also endorsed India's stand in the United Nations. This is very important. Indian executive has taken stand in United Nations by abstaining at United Nations Security Council and also United Nations General Assembly. Indian opposition also is with India's stand, agreeing with government that India has to prioritize its interests and cannot take any step to antagonize Russia that has extended strategic help on various multinational forums, including United Nations. Because of our past relationship with Russia, the opposition or legislature is also extending its support to executive choice at United Nations Security Council. At the same time, it cannot jeopardize its partnership with US. It is once again cautioning. It is on one hand appreciating the efforts of executive and appreciating or supporting the decision of executive at UNSC. At the same time, cautioning that we cannot jeopardize our partnership with US. We need support from US as well. Here some questions. Mr. Gandhi, according to sources, wanted to know whether the Indian government expects China to take a cue from Russia and step up aggression against India. In recent months, India-China relations are not conducive. China aggressively showing its attitude by encroaching on Indian lands, and skirmishes and even some violent developments also took place between India and China. In that context, he is once again asking the executive that whether China takes inspiration from Russia and whether China is going to show aggressive attitude against India. Executive is answering to this. Mr. Jaishankar said India is no Ukraine. Russia and China may take inspiration from Russia, but India is not Ukraine, and this answer shows that China cannot show that kind of aggressive attitude. Indirectly, executive is answering to the legislature. Mr. Gandhi also asked if the ongoing conflict will change Russia's position with China vis-a-vis India. What will be Russia's position, or what will be Russia and China's relationship vis-a-vis India with this conflict? To this, Mr. Jaishankar said Russia knows how to value its relations with India. Russia knows how to handle with India, and it will not have any problem with particular situation. However, there were several questions from the opposition MPs on the perceived delay in beginning the evacuation process. The members asked questions on comparison between the timeline of advisories issued by the Indian government as opposed to the other countries. So they are asking how fastly they could have done evacuation process and why the delays were taking place. They also sought to know the possibility of humanitarian corridor to pull the students out of this crisis. So this is one example where you can use how executive is answerable or accountable to legislature. So this is about accountability aspect in our political system. That is one news. And next news is about National Human Rights Commission. Here it is about right to free environment. It is about fundamental rights or the rights to citizen. Here a news appeared in the Hindu newspaper. Here it is saying that the case of vanishing water bodies. An article appeared in the Hindu newspaper. National Human Rights Commission. Here, for our examination point of view, National Human Rights Commission is an autonomous body. It is a statutory body. Question can be asked whether NHRC is a constitutional body or statutory body or executive body. It is statutory body created in 93. It has the powers of civil code, and it can investigate grievances regarding the violation of human rights either suo motu or after receiving a petition. Here this news is an example of taking cognizance. NHRC itself is taking cognizance on its own, suo motu, that means on its own without any petition. Now it has the powers of civil code. It can issue notices to the executive in the case of violation of human rights. This is an example of suo motu and human rights giving notices to the executive. Let us see the news. Here Hindu newspaper highlighted that there are water bodies in Delhi. They are vanishing due to encroaches, and these water bodies are getting destroyed. As a result, environment is under stress. It is affecting the human rights. Why? It is affecting the human rights. Now, National Human Rights Commission issued notices to Government of Delhi and Delhi Development Authority seeking detailed reports on the city's water bodies, taking cognizance of a report in the Hindu. NHRC took suo motu cognizance of the report published by Hindu on disappearing water bodies in the national capital. So, in this context, let us see the human rights or rights related to environment. In our constitution itself, there are certain rights for citizen, and also there are duties also expected from citizen related to environment. NHRC issued notices to Chief Secretary of Delhi and DDA Vice Chairman seeking the report within 6 weeks. The Commission has observed that the issue raised in the media report is a matter of concern. There are laws and guidelines to safeguard such vital components of environment. The alleged negligence by authorities tantamount to violation of human rights. Here, National Human Rights Commission, the purpose of this commission is to safeguard human rights. In this particular case, environment is polluted. This is affecting the basic human rights. That is why NHRC felt that these violations of human rights must be answered by the executive. It sent notices. As the water bodies, and it is explaining how these water bodies are environmental, how this violates human rights. Water bodies and wetlands are a vital part of the hydrological cycle, provides a wide range of ecosystem services such as water storage, water purification, erosion control, microclimate regulation. It also helps mitigate urban floods. It is saying the water bodies in question have been encroached upon, concretized or polluted with sewage. Because of this, all these important aspects are damaged. As a result, the right to life of people is in danger. So, fundamental right to life is a human right. It's a human right violation. Out of 169 out of 1000 plus identified water bodies are destroyed according to this Hindu news report. Constitutional provision, these are important for examination point of view. With respect to DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, environment related article is there, and in case of fundamental duty also, specifically there is a provision or there is a duty regarding protection of environment. In case of DPSP, Article 48A, it is saying that state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Here it is the duty of state. In this case, Delhi government, because in this case is about water bodies located within the Delhi administration. The state shall endeavor, should protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife. Article 51, this is a fundamental duty with respect to the duties of citizen. It is a duty of every citizen to protect and preserve the environment. These are the constitutional provisions related to environmental rights. These rights are to be protected. National Human Rights Commission is a body, statutory body created to protect the human rights. In this case, it felt human rights are violated. It sent the notices to the state authority. This is about this particular news. These are the important news items related to polity. Now we will see economy related news. One news is related to tax evasion. Here, Income Tax Department conducting searches on a particular company for its tax evasion. In our examination point of view, we have to see two terms. One is tax evasion, another one is tax avoidance. The difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is a legal means where people can reduce the tax liability by investing in various legal instruments. Whereas tax evasion is willful and illegal evasion. Here illegally people are not paying the tax, that is amount to tax evasion by individuals or corporations. This is about tax evasion. This example is about tax evasion by a corporation. Here in this case it is Huawei company, but Income Tax Department is not disclosing it openly, but according to the report, the corporation or company in the news on which income tax department searched is about Huawei. The income tax department claimed to have detected irregularities in a multinational group engaged in the distribution of telecom products and providing captive software development services. Here in this case, there are some irregularities and there are instances of tax evasion. Department has initiated the searches on the premises of the company in Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore on February 15th. Huawei had said, we will approach related government departments for more information and fully cooperate as per the rules and regulations and follow the right procedure. IT department, the assessee company could not justify the genuineness of obtaining such alleged technical services, in lieu of which payment has been made, and also the basis of determination of consideration for the same. Here, this case you can link with foreign direct investment. This is about a multinational company. Multinational MNCs. In our economy, importance of MNC is to bring foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is helpful. There is another term, that is foreign institutional investment. This is only people bring money to the stock market and they can take away at any time. But FDI is a long term one, and it will bring not only forex reserves but also bring management skills and other administrative skills, technology also to Indian economy. This is importance of foreign direct investment, importance of MNC. Now on the other side, now these MNCs are earning a lot of revenues or profits from India, and they are taking away profits to other countries. Now India's wealth is going away from India, but in between, if they earn the profit, income tax department conduct the searches and to get the what state is supposed to get as income tax. Now with respect to MNCs, there is a issue like foreign entity is there, Indian entity is there. Indian branch of MNC, foreign branch of MNC. As part of imports, management skill, administrative skill and technology can be imported from the foreign branch to Indian branch. While calculating the accounts, what is happening? Indian branch is paying a lot of money to the foreign branch. Now, Indian branch is saying that for importing technology, we need to pay a lot of amount and it will be out of tax net. So, in that way, they are finding the loophole to take away India's profits to other countries. Now, in between, this is one example where income tax is saying that there is no genuineness in this transaction. They are talking about royalty, and Indian branch of Huawei is paying as part of royalty to the other country's branch, but this Indian branch is not able to justify the amount it is paying to the foreign branch. In that context, it is conducting searches. This is an example of tax evasion. Here you can link like what is tax evasion, tax avoidance, foreign direct investment, MNC advantages and limitations and loopholes. You can get the examples and you using examination. Here GS3, in GS3 you can use this part. This is an example. Next news is about trade deficit. Trade deficit. Now in yesterday's news also we have seen that there is an increase in trade deficit for February. India's trade deficit, which shot back to 21 billion in February, is expected to stay elevated in the coming months. Here we have to see for trade deficit, then related to trade deficit is current account deficit, and one more deficit, that is fiscal deficit. Here the news is saying current account deficit could widen to here due to trade deficit. If trade deficit increases, current account deficit also will increase. Trade deficit means it is about exports, imports, the balance between value of exports and value of imports in terms of goods. When it comes to current account deficit, it it accounts goods also, services also, remittances also. The overall balance of goods, services, remittances combinedly creates current account deficit because India imports more than what it exports to other countries. India spends more to import than earning from the exports. Because of this, India faces trade deficit, as a result, current account deficit. And as a result, fiscal deficit also India is having. The surge in oil prices, the reasons behind the growing trade deficit and current account deficit. One is oil prices are increasing and domestic demand is also increasing. Now post COVID recovery is taking place. Indian people are spending on different items. More demand is created. That means we need more oil imports. More demand, more manufacturing or more production is required. More production means more oil imports are required. As a result, we need to import more because India is not self-sufficient in oil. We almost more than 80% of our oil resource comes from outside. Will significantly enhance India's import bill. This will increase the import bill. As a result, trade deficit will increase. Aided by broader rise in commodities and fertilizers and gold imports. Now Ukraine and Russia-Ukraine war is going on. Now there is a lot of uncertainty in the capital market also. People now choose other investment alternatives like gold. Now to invest in gold, they need gold. India requires gold. Once again, more gold is imported from outside. Once again, import bill will increase. Oil imports, gold imports, these two are two important items, two major items where India's import bill is increasing. Hedge against market volatility and inflation. We expect the current account deficit to widen 2.6% of GDP in 2022-23. In 21-22, it was 1.7% of GDP. Now it is expected in the next financial year 2.6. It will increase. Brent crude oil already it is rising. Earlier, just 2 weeks ago, it was below 100. Now it is reaching $120 a barrel. Now you can see, and we have seen in various news analysis also, for every $10 rise in oil price, 0.5% inflation also will increase. The union budget has assumed an over average oil price $75. Budget was expecting $75 on an average throughout a year, but now itself it is reaching $120. But in future, if Russia and Ukraine crisis comes down, once again oil prices may be under normal averaged prices. Then only current account deficit and trade deficit can be contained. Russia accounts, however, the Russia's trade accounts only 0.8% of India's exports, but risk to export demand would increase if the slowdown in Russia's economy has ripple effects. Directly with Russia, we may not have exports, but Russia is having relations with neighboring countries. Those neighboring countries like the Commonwealth of Independent States. As a result, now Russia's economy is under stress. This economy will have impact on CIS region, Commonwealth of Independent, mainly Central Asian republics. And now India is having exports relations with this region. This region will be under financial stress. As a result, India also will face the consequence of this. So these are the Commonwealth of Independent States. India is exporting goods to these countries. If Russia facing threat, the neighboring, those who have relations with Russia also will have, for example, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. These countries will face the threat. As a result, it will show impact on India's goods and trade in goods. It will increase the trade deficit. Our imports will become lesser. Anyway, oil imports are not going to be contained, and oil imports and gold imports will increase. More import bill we get, but export earnings will become less. Trade deficit, it will result in current account deficit. Here current account deficit means goods, services, remittances like net foreign revenues. The twin deficit, current account plus fiscal deficit combination is about twin deficit. Fiscal deficit is about total expenditure minus total revenue within the domestic borders. Now current account deficit is talking about foreign relations or exports and imports related aspects. Next issue is about relief for crisis hit exporters on unwill. Exporters and importers are going to be affected due to growing crisis between Ukraine and Russia. Now there is a concept letters of credit. This it can become an important aspect for prelims point of view. Letters of credit, they are investment, it's a promise made by bank to pay to exporter on behalf of importer. Here exporters are exporting to Russia. Example, you take Russian exporters, they are exporting to Russia, but now Russia cannot pay the finances. As a result, exporter will not get the income. If exporter do not get the income, he or she cannot pay the loans which they have taken. As a result, it will affect the bank's non-performing assets will increase, and overall it will have impact on entire economy. Here it is saying that banks may give letter of credit as a promise made by banks to pay to exporter on behalf of importer. This letter of credit can act as a safe instrument where exporters will get some amount and the cushion will be there for exporters. It's a soft loan for exporters hit by cash squeeze following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Western sanctions imposed on Moscow. Exporters are owed about $500 million from Russia, and government may guarantee banks letters of credit or loans to help ease the crunch. Letters of credit is the most likely option in this particular circumstance. Now you can see how the impact of war is felt on different sectors and different international level, strategic level also, economic level also. In economy, on banking sector, on different sectors of exports, imports as well, trade deficit, current account deficit, fiscal deficit. Now whatever estimates, budget estimates, monetary policy estimates, all are going to be disturbed by particular war. Now this is how you can analyze what will be the impact of war on entire global economy. Finance Ministry and RBI yet to take the decision about letters of credit, but it is expected that they are going to be important instruments to handle this particular crisis. Cheap loans. The government is also looking at having state-owned banks lend to exporters at reduced rates or provide funds to them directly up to the amount of pending payments from Russia and Ukraine. Cheap loans, giving loans once again to exporters is another option where this particular crisis can be handled. And if you take some of the examples of areas, India exported to Russia mainly in pharmaceutical products, tea, coffee, these are the areas, and pharmaceutical industry will get affected now, tea industry, coffee industry. If we take imports from Russia, defense goods, mineral resources, fertilizer, metals and precious stones. Now on both sides, these industries are going to face the stress due to this war. So this is about economy news. We have covered international news, then polity news and economy news. Thank you.